Welcome back. It's West of Everest. I'm Lee Benson. He is Grant Benson, and the 2025 college football season is officially in the books. Thus, the incredibly long off season is now upon us. This show can be found wherever you can find finer podcasts, but most of you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget, we are on YouTube if you want to watch us. And for today's show, I got to say, I'd recommend checking us out on YouTube or on Spotify. You can watch video on Spotify as well. And the reason for that is because one of the segments later in the show will feature big full-screen infographics that will help paint the picture of the topic at hand. So that's later in the show. You can watch on YouTube and also Spotify. And by the way, while you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the podcast, West of Everest on YouTube. Just click that subscribe button and help us out. All right, coming up on the show, with the transfer portal now closed, we take a look at Oklahoma's newest pickups since our last episode. Plus, pretty big news, we finally figured out some answers on the futures of three pretty important players. We'll also talk about Owen Heinecke and his eligibility situation. Plus, I will present all my findings when it comes to DeMarco Murray, OU's running back room, and how all of them stack up against the rest of the SEC over the last 5 years. On this show, Grant and I have criticized DeMarco Murray quite a bit over the last few seasons in particular. And we'll just say it, the evidence that will be presented today on the show, in my opinion, verifies that all of that criticism is fair and warranted. So with that, I say hello to Grant. Grant, what's going on?
Nothing much. Kind of, I don't know about anybody else, but I felt like I haven't been, everybody on Monday night, everyone is all just like, gosh, it's just this magical Indiana story and everything. And I it's a great story I think Indiana winning the national title with Sig and everything. I think it's good for college football. I do think it's a great story. But I'm honestly, the emotions of it aren't working on me this time around. I'm already in the camp of Indiana. You're too good. You need to be taken down a notch. Get out of here.
Interesting. It's just nice to see a new team, like a truly new team win, I guess. But what makes it even better is because we've been on Sig, well, not since the beginning. I will say, friend of the show, Jared, who came on the show a couple of years ago to talk about his calls on head coaches. By the way, I think it's episode 313 of the show. And you can find all the episodes on Podbean, by the way, kind of just behind the curtain. We changed podcast hosting in the off season, and not every single episode migrated over to Spotify and Apple and everything, which is kind of frustrating. So if you want to look at and find old episodes, you can go to podbean.com or Podbean. There's an app you can search for West of Everest. All the older episodes are on there. I say that because I believe it was episode 313 where our friend Jared came on and gave his takes on all of the new head coaching hires. And I went back and listened to it and shared it with him. And he was a big fan of Cignetti. And everything he said was, obviously he didn't say that Indiana would win a national title, but he was, of all the people that were on Cignetti at the start, he's a guy that can claim it, and there's evidence for it. And it's actually a pretty interesting episode. You can go back and listen to it as well, Grant, because some of the key coaches we talked about, I think all of us kind of nailed it. The big, I guess this is kind of easy at the time, but it's definitely a hit for all of us, was Sharon Moore. We're like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. And obviously we didn't expect it to end the way it ended for him, but that just makes that call seem that much more, I don't know, obvious at the time.
Sharon Moore stuff, that feels like it was 3 years ago. And it was like it was more than a month ago now, I think, at this time. But
what was I getting at? I think I was getting somewhere. Oh, go ahead. I got something. I'll think about it. And
we'll have more in Indiana later. I kind of have we have a pretty like open-ended rundown today. I think we're just kind of vamp about college football and some other stuff that's been going on with OU. And so I got some more thoughts on Indiana, but do not count me amongst the people who's throwing a parade for Indiana right now. And it's not, and I'm a human being. I'm flawed. It's a lot of it probably is jealousy and other type of stuff, but I don't know. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. That's a good point. Let's talk about OU football. And one of the big question marks on our last episode, we did a show. The portal had not closed yet. We talked about all of the guys Oklahoma had gotten. The Sooners have since gotten some more players, one of which seems to be a decent get. The rest of them, I don't know, but Grant can maybe fill me in on that. I'll be honest, I have not been as dialed into the new guys they've gotten. But one of the big questions was John Mateer, Kip Lewis, Isaiah Satania. Of those three, I just like Mateer to me was always coming back. But when it comes to who's coming back, who's not, I'm not going to jump ahead. I'm not going to assume. I mean, I'm waiting until it's actually official. And we finally got some official announcements, right, with Mateer, Kip Lewis, and Satania. And that's huge. I mean, those three guys, obviously very important to Oklahoma's success in 2025. Obviously, we all wanted John Mateer to play better. Glass half full, the injury, maybe that did impact him a lot more than we thought. And who knows, maybe it was until the playoff game when he was finally more healthy than not. And even though he had a terrible pick six in the playoff game, overall, he played one of his better games, that game and the LSU game, honestly. Just actually watch the tape. Wasn't great or anything, but it was better than what we had seen. So hopefully Mateer's somebody that can improve, because you said it, I think, on the last show. That's really what it comes down to. If John Mateer can't make a jump, then, I mean, Oklahoma ain't going to sniff a national title. Maybe they make a playoff again, but not going to go anywhere. He's the key. He is absolutely the key to them actually being a true playoff, like championship contender. But overall, Satania coming back. Satania, Trell Harris, Livingston as a 3, and then what'd you get out? Elijah Thomas maybe. Help me out.
Manny Choice.
No, the transfer played a little bit this past year. He had some big catches. I can't think of his name.
Jermichael Carter.
Carter. Yeah, Jermichael Carter. That's something to be like, okay, even with the truly horrible track record so far of Oklahoma's wide receivers coach in his short time there. On paper, that's a pretty decent looking wide receiver group. And then with the linebacker room with Kip coming with the new Michigan transfer coming over, you're like, okay, even with Sammy Omasigo leaving, you're like, at least there's two guys there that are pretty good. You'd hope.
I think, and this is just sort of, looking ahead now, 9 months from now, whenever it's going to be. Well, not quite 9 months, more closer to 8 months than 9 months. I think 1 to 22, I'm talking just like all of their starters, I think they're probably up there with kind of the top of college football. I think on paper right now, it looks like their depth has taken a pretty big hit from where it was a season ago or this past season. And that's kind of turned into like a cliche over the last year or so, or not even the last year, maybe the last month since the portal has been open. People been like, teams are just not going to be able to stack these guys that much anymore. And you see OU having a top 5 defense in college football this year, probably the best defense in the SEC statistically and effectively. A lot of their depth pieces were picked off by other power programs, and I think that's going to happen. And so I think you're going into a season where you're really going to have to cross your fingers and hope for health, which I think has been a pretty precarious spot for OU over the last, in my fans' mind, over the last 25 years. They just haven't really been that healthy for the most part. But going forward now, I do think a lot of your fortunes about where you're going to be in the postseason do really depend on how healthy you stay. And we saw it. I think with, Mateer breaking his thumb earlier this year, they were obvious. I still think they were obviously impacted by that. Defense and special teams were able to carry them up to that point. But I don't think you can count on that for a second consecutive season. OU definitely had some things go their way this year. And for them just to be 10-2 again next year, they're going to have to get a lot better, I think, because I don't think you can count on, for instance, I'm happy that Tate Sandell is coming back. There is no way in hell he is going to have as good of a year as he did last year. There's just no way that's going to happen. So got to get better. Got to score more points. Got to move the ball a lot easier. Defense has to take the ball away like they did in the second half of the season more consistently over the course of the year. But I have a lot of time to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add on Satania, Kip, and Mateer. I mean, we all know that they're important. Good thing they're coming back.
One thing I will say on Satania, this is more of just kind of speculation on my part, based off of how they treated the portal with wide receivers and whatnot. I think the coaching staff and the front office views Satania as a number one. That's not correct. He's not a number one guy. That doesn't mean that I do think, and I said this on the last, I think Livingston can be a number one guy. He's the only guy they got who can be. Maybe Elijah Thomas, but the track record of receivers who we don't see make any sort of impact as a true freshman turning into like a number one receiver, that just doesn't really happen very often. But we'll see. And so I for as buttoned up and as buttoned up as they looked in the portal this cycle this year, it still sort of concerns me that I think it's that they view Satania as a number one guy. A little concerning to me.
I wouldn't read it that way. I mean, I think that they're not going to overspend, overpay for receiver. I think, I agree. I mean, I think Satania is the best of this group. I think he's the best player of this group. I mean, he's the most probably electric.
Obviously, the most proven, and he's super explosive. I mean, but
that's
he's not
that's
a
what
guy.
That's what sets Satania apart, though, is his explosiveness and his ability to make people miss, which
But like, you can
is a huge asset.
But we just watched Indiana win a national championship on Monday night, and that was a very, very close game. I mean, that game was won in the margins, and offensively for Indiana, they won that game because Fernando Mendoza can hit Charlie Becker on back shoulder throws. That's why they won that particular.
Well, it's a back
game
shoulder throw
Miami.
guy. I mean, they can. I mean, you can get anybody to be good at doing back shoulder throws. You got to rep it. You got to practice it. Omar Cooper, I think, is Indiana's best wide receiver, and he's really good. But I don't think anybody in Indiana is like truly amazingly elite. Like Omar Cooper was, I thought, definitely Indiana's best receiver the other night. I mean, it wasn't really close to me. I mean, Becker had his thing where he had a couple back shoulder catches. I guess he's a downfield threat for them. I don't know. I guess I haven't really. He hadn't done anything until the last half of the season. That's what they were talking about on the show.
Although,
good for him. He might be an NFL guy now.
Anytime that you saw him in the second half of the season, he was just making huge plays against elite competition, and so. That is one area where, and they, Indiana, the number one, they have the number one pick in the draft. They had the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. That's a big part of their success this year. But the other area where I do think that they stack up against like the best teams and like the most talented teams is at the receiver position. Their top three receivers are all NFL guys. Those are all dudes. Surratt, Cooper, and Becker are all dudes.
See, but I mean, just because they're NFL guys doesn't mean that they're due. I mean, I think the Satania's a guy that can play in the NFL. I think Trell Harris can play in the NFL, and who knows what. I mean, Livingston's got the size and stuff. He can play in the NFL too.
Yeah, I think Indiana's top three receivers were amongst the elite of the sport this year. Like I would say, Ohio State is probably the only team I would take over them in terms of receivers this year. And that's what, and I've said it, and like that's been one of my thesis statements of this podcast over the last 10 years, is that having good receivers is almost more important than anything. And
so, I think there's a nice balance because a big reason why, I mean, put those three receivers on Oklahoma and they're not doing the same stuff because Mateer's not going to give them the ball as well as Mendoza can give them the ball. So it's got to be a balance there. I think Mendoza's making those guys look a little bit better than they are, but those guys made Mendoza look a lot better than maybe he is at some times during this season as well.
Surratt and Cooper were terrific last year with Curtis Rourke throwing them the ball at Indiana.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's those receivers that are quarterback proof that are pretty impressive, like Larry Fitzgerald, for example. Like that dude, I mean, he had Kurt Warner for a little bit of time, but most of his career in Arizona, he had nobody's throwing to him, and he was always really good. So
yeah, that's what I guess that's where like with Indiana and everything. The reason why Miami made that, like the reason why the game was so close, because Miami has better players in the trenches than Indiana does, and I thought that finally shone through, like pretty obviously in that game. The one area where Indiana was decisively better than Miami was at quarterback and wide receiver.
See, but I thought Indiana ran the football pretty well, and Indiana just is a show, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the outlier, but it's great for me because we don't have to talk about Indiana, but it just coaching is the most important thing, man. Like really great coaching can turn a bunch of players that aren't elite blue chip guys and put them in great spots, even if they're not like 4 or 5-star guys, and be good. Now, obviously, Indiana was able to get guys up front, but still, man, it's just they're putting great positions and they're all smart players. God, the secondary for Indiana is so good. I mean, those guys know exactly what they're doing. They're so smart. The way they cover, they know how to play zone defense really well, and the way they're. But yeah, I mean, yes, it's crazy that Miami lost 2 games, in with how well their front 7 played in the playoff. Like they were creating, they had about as many sacks probably in the playoff as they may have had the entire like season. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seemed like they were going to have to quarterback.
Well, it took them like their final sack against Ole Miss finally pushed them ahead of OU for the nation lead in sacks.
Okay, well, never mind that. But anyways, so where were we? So yeah, let's talk about. So on our last show, we were talking. Okay, here's all the guys. We talked about the impact, how impactful we think they are. But then we also talked a little bit about what Oklahoma still needed in the transfer portal. And I guess in theory, I mean, Oklahoma can still get guys. I mean, just because the portal's closed, if you're in the portal, you're still available. You can still get picked up. You just can't jump in the portal anymore. And so I can't even recall what position groups we were like wanting more of. Probably running back. Needed to get some more bodies in the tight end room, and Oklahoma certainly addressed that now with Jason Witten. I know you wanted guys up front. I mean, Grayson Halton's not there anymore. Dominic Williams is not there anymore, and then Marcus Strong going. So Oklahoma did seem to get some positions of need, correct, in the last week and a couple days or so.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that's what they did. And so like I think the guys that I wanted, tight end was one of them, defensive tackle, safety was the other one. They needed another safety that they have not addressed yet. We'll see. And you don't follow this stuff as much as I do, like with the insider stuff, and they're not going after any big fish or anything. They're done. They're bargain shopping at this point in time. And so I do think I think they did get one genuinely like really good pickup with Tennessee tight end Jack Van Dorselaer. I think that's a really good pickup. He's a blue chip guy, and he only spent 1 year in college. He played like 350 snaps for Tennessee this past year. He only caught like a handful of balls. He had the ball that bounced off his face mask on 4th down against OU. That's that guy. This is a blue chip guy. He's from the Dallas area, and it would not surprise me at all if he's a pretty big part of their plans this year going forward. That's sort of them getting him, adding on to Hayden Hansen and Rocky Beers. I do think you can definitively say now on paper that the tight end room is miles better. Yeah. And so we'll see what they do with it. It kind of, outside of like Heinecke, who is I think was 3rd on the team in catches this year, but it seemed like for the most part, Arbuckle really wanted to use that tight end room to block up the run game, which is silly because that's now 3 consecutive years they haven't had a tight end who can block worth their salt, and yet they're asking them to be a huge part of like numbers in the run game. And I'm tired of that. I'm just tired of that crap. If you have bad tight ends who can't block, spread everybody out, take them off the field. Heinecke never should have never went off the field, but he was a slot receiver anyway. But I do think now that you can talk yourself into that room being in much better shape. Jason Witten now being the coach, and nobody knows how good of a tight ends coach he's going to be, but probably can't get any worse than what it was. But I like the Van Dorselaer pickup. I think it's especially that late in the portal process, you get a blue chip guy who is only 1 year removed from high school, and he played a lot as a true freshman in the SEC. Obviously a good pickup as far as I'm concerned there. The other guys I think are more just like kind of whatever guys. Of the other guys, I think the one that we'll probably see the most this upcoming year is probably the D tackle from Georgia State, Bishop Thomas. I think he's just like a flyer guy. They need another body there. I don't think anyone knows much about him. He was kind of productive this past season. And I think you and I at this point in time have completely written off Pro Football Focus, but he has like really high Pro Football Focus grades. Kind of reminds me of
low grades.
Who is the guy Who was the other guy they got from UTSA who was an interior defensive lineman who you know who I'm talking about, right? Yeah, this was a couple of years ago now, but it was like, hey, like he was kind of young, he still had some time to develop, but whenever he didn't see a lot of snaps, and when he did, he had really high Pro Football Focus grades. I don't think you can really put a whole lot of stock in any of that stuff, but
well, let's just be clear again when it comes to Pro Football Focus. I think Pro Football Focus when it comes to the NFL is probably pretty good. When it comes to college, I don't.
They're not watching the games. They're using some sort of proprietary software that does, like, it makes me wonder if they're. Have you ever seen that? I mostly only ever see it in NFL games, but after like a big play in the NFL, you ever see anybody tweet out like the stat X thing where it's like the X's and O's on the field and it actually shows like what the play looked like, what everybody did on the play, except it's not, it just, but their person is represented by an X or an O. And like it shows, I think PFF college probably uses something like that for their grades because there's no way that, I think like 10 people work for Pro Football Focus College. There's no way that they're watching all the games.
Yeah, I'm not sure. By the way, I found out it was Devon Sears. That's who you're thinking of.
Yeah.
He Texas State
didn't amount to much.
So yeah, but Thomas played a lot of games. Played 12 games, had 3.5 TFLs, 1.5 sacks. Big body guy. So, and you throw him into that position group. We've said it a million times, but whether it's Todd Bates or Miguel Chavis, you feel like the odds of a player performing and maybe reaching his potential are definitely better than some other position groups on the team.
Yeah, I wonder how much Jonah Laulu produced at Hawaii before he came to OU. That would be I don't think it was a lot either. I think it was more of, at that stage we hadn't seen an OU Venables coach team play a game at that point. We're always just like, gosh, this is Venables. He's coming in and he's got an eye for talent. And that ended up working out really, really well with Laulu. So we'll see. The other guys we got, we'll just stay on the defensive side of the ball for this guy. Prince Ijeoma. He is from Mississippi Valley State. And I'm pretty sure, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong. Mississippi Valley State, I believe they popularized the oop-de-oop. The famous offensive system that Jonathan Moxon was a very big fan of. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that was Mississippi Valley State. This guy is I don't know. He's an FCS guy coming from the SWAC. He's got good size. He's like 6'3", 195. Seems like he was a starter for Mississippi Valley State. Did not make any of the first or second all SWAC teams. My assumption is this guy's a warm body that they're just bringing in to be a practice body. And then the other guy they have brought in since then is walk-on wide receiver from Washington State, Mackenzie Aline. And people have made it seem like that that Arbuckle originally brought him to Pullman. I think he was a redshirt freshman this year, so I guess maybe that's possible. But he had virtually zero playing time or production in his career all the way up until the famous Idaho Potato Bowl this year. I think he had 3 catches, like 60 some odd yards and a touchdown.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. So
but he's, you're not expecting him to be anything. They lost some bodies in that room. They're, he's going to be very far down in the pecking order in terms of there. So Ijeoma, Aline, those are guys that I wouldn't count on really seeing it all this year. Bishop Thomas, we probably will see him, and then Van Dorselaer, we're almost certainly going to see this year.
Okay, I want to correct myself now that I look back at Laulu's numbers. Now I'm being reminded. So yes, he did have good production at Hawaii. So the question was like, Hawaii was such a bad program, but he had, before coming to OU in 3 years, he had 19 TFLs total and 8 sacks. So that's what it was. He had like, in 2021, he had 8 TFLs and 4 sacks. So he's coming off a pretty productive season for Hawaii, for a Hawaii defensive lineman. So correction. Yeah. Laulu did at least show on tape some flashes of explosiveness and then transitioned nicely over to OU. Weirdly, on Sports Reference, Laulu's year with OU is not on his player card for college. Doesn't have
He
him
was
at
with OU for 2 years, 22 and 23, wasn't he?
Was it? Jeez.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, because that would make sense. Because the 2020 COVID year, he got a free year for that. So yeah. Wow, this needs to be updated. Come on, Sports Reference.
I think he was the 7th round pick. I think of the Colts. The Colts are he's with the Raiders now, and he just had a really nice season. I think for the Raiders, like he's pretty productive.
Oh, actually, it's weird. Laulu's got 2 pages on Sports Reference. One at Hawaii, one at OU. He looks a lot different in his OU photo compared to his Hawaii photo. He put a lot of weight on in Norman. So, okay. And so, yeah, I don't have anything else to add on the new guys. I think you covered it pretty well. As far as the outgoing portal players, we have some updates on some new teams for some former Sooners now. The most couple of interesting ones, I would say, both on defense. Sammy Omosigho going to UCLA. I can't remember if that was announced by the time our last show. It may or may not.
I went and looked. You didn't have for all the guys who had announced, you had their school there. You didn't have one for Omosigho.
Okay, so Omosigho, and then I'd say the only other one that's I shouldn't say that. I mean, Gentry Williams going to Georgia. I mean, that's a Georgia classic. Just it's like a flyer on a guy. I mean, let's see if this can be the time where he can be healthy. Because I mean, we all know that if Gentry Williams is healthy, he's terrific. I mean, he's an excellent player.
That's a good pickup for Georgia if he's healthy. History says he won't be. History says they'll at most get 3 or 4 games out of him, and then you won't see him again. But that's one of those situations, and it sucks because OU plays Georgia. Because otherwise, it'd just be like, yeah, I hope he has a good season. But now that OU's got to play him, it's like, no, I kind of hope he's not. I hope he's who he was at Oklahoma, which is a really good player when he's on the field, but he is never on the field.
How about Zion Reagan's going to Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby? Is Zion Reagan's going to look like Brennan Thompson in Jeff Lebby's offense? And we're going to be like, what the heck?
Okay, here's why I think that won't happen. Before Brennan Thompson transferred to Mississippi State, he had flashes at Oklahoma. Where like in 2023, he was making some plays down the field. And even in 2024, with that dreadful offense, he at times kind of was making some plays. He was probably their most consistent receiver that entire season. Zion Reagan's is actively bad. Like, not even sure he's an FBS level player in any conference. So, I mean, I'm fairly certain that Reagan's probably ended up at OU, probably in large part because of Jeff Lebby. And so he's just kind of following the guy who recruited him all throughout high school. And that makes sense. And he ain't the only guy going to Mississippi State. I think Isaiah Autry-Dent is also going to Mississippi State. Kendall Dolby also going to Starkville. So another team this year that OU plays. I think they play in Starkville. Clinga, clinga, clinga.
Crap. I like Kendall Dolby. Hope he does well. Troy Everett to Ole Miss. I know you said that Troy Everett's best days are behind him because he can't stay healthy.
Very much so. Very much so. He's also not. He was only ever, for OU, whenever he was healthy and he played, he was only ever just fine. And I say that with like a lot of hand motions. Just like he was only ever just fine.
And then also Giovanni Gibson, Cincinnati. Kind of interesting, even though Cincinnati is now losing Sorsby. So who's going to be the quarterback there? I'm not sure. And the other Zion Kearney to the Big Ten in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been. I mean, Luke Fickell, how is he still there? Like, that has not worked. That just has not worked in Madison. Thought that guy was a good coach. I mean,
maybe I don't know. Part of me, because like just being a Gopher, I'm just all like, Wisconsin is in their rightful spot right now. They shouldn't. Yeah. Them being so good at football, like as good as they were for nearly 30 years, it didn't make any sense. And so I thought that there was them trying to go, because like they hire Fickell. And I didn't think hiring Fickell was like a bad hire, but then his first offensive coordinator hire, I think it was I can't think of his name right now, but he was an air raid guy. He was Mac Brown's OC when he was at North Carolina. It was that guy. And I was just like, trying to run air raid at Wisconsin is a drastic mistake. And so I don't really think at Wisconsin they really know what they want to be. Perfect for Zion Kearney. He'll fit right in.
Let's see. I'm trying to find. Oh, Phil Longo. I remember that. I thought he was a good OC, but yeah, apparently didn't work out. So, all right. Other than that, those are all the guys that are going off. Best of luck to them, I guess. I mean, yeah, sure. Best of luck.
Well, I mean, this is like best of luck. Yeah, whatever. It's like I hope their lives are good. But like, yeah, in terms of their football careers, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's all just right. Portal era.
Yeah, that's the way it is. So let's talk about Owen Heinecke and his situation, because we didn't, we briefly mentioned just like, we acknowledged it last show, the thoughts, the way, I mean, I have not followed this up until really the last week and a half or so, just because I realized it's like, okay, what's going on here? Just let's learn it, because one, I didn't really think it was that interesting. And then now that it's still going on, I kind of figured it would already be figured out. And so now I wanted, okay, let's figure out exactly what's going on, because the Trinidad Chambliss thing happened. He didn't get the extra eligibility. I remember I looked into his situation. I totally understand why he didn't get it. Now he's going to try to sue, and good luck there. I don't think that's going to work, but okay. So, and Heinecke was on the Oklahoma Breakdown podcast, and I listened to a good portion of that interview, and the interview just kept going on and on and on and on. And boy, I had turned it off after like 30 minutes. Like, I don't need to listen to Owen Heinecke for like 30 minutes, guys. But I was just curious on like what his thoughts were, his take. And then there was a story that George from Sooner Scoop wrote, I think yesterday, as we record this on Wednesday. And I don't have access to that. I'm not a Sooner Scoop subscriber. Sorry, guys. But I know, Grant, you had a chance to read it. And so you might be able to fill in some blanks. And so here's a couple. My biggest questions on the whole thing is, all right, like, what is his argument? What is Owen Heinecke's argument for getting an extra year? And George had some screenshots from some quotes, and the story that I referenced, Heinecke was asked about his pitch to the NCAA, and I read his pitch, and it was all just kind of a bunch of feelings and emotion, and had nothing to do with the actual situation, which tells me, well, that's not a very good argument, because you need to have like a reason why you need to get an extra year of eligibility, not just, hey, you should feel good about this, or I'm a nice guy. And so that kind of was a red flag to me of like, I'm not so sure that even Heinecke has a good pitch as to why he deserves an extra year. And so before I throw it over to you, here's the way I see this. So 2021, he enrolled at Ohio State. Here's the timeline. That's where he played lacrosse for 3 games. It's famously known he played for 3 games. Okay. Guess he didn't like it. I don't know if he played the entire season and only played 3 games, or if he played 3 games at the start and then quit the team. I don't know how that worked. Maybe that's in the story. I don't know. For this, doesn't really matter. Transfers to Oklahoma. Tries to join the football team. Does join the football team. Somehow gets on the team after transferring to Oklahoma in 2022. Good for him. It was a walk-on. That's great for him. And this is the part that is kind of unclear, and you say it's in Georgia's story, that apparently in 2022 at some point, was it in fall camp, he suffered an injury, which
a knee
forced
injury.
him to miss, and that forced him to miss the entire 2022 season.
A knee injury that required surgery.
Okay. And
now,
was it documented on when that happened?
It happened during fall camp, so it happened in August. But the one thing that, after reading the story, the one thing that I keep coming back to is he didn't specify what the knee injury was. And when we hear we hear surgery for a knee injury, I think we automatically assume like a ligament, like some sort of ACL, PCL, MCL, something like that. What if it was like a partial PCL thing and he just needed like a knee scope? And he technically could have been back that year, but they just decided not to. That's what I kind of keep wondering. And you also asked, you're not sure what, he played 3 games at Ohio State in lacrosse. What happened? And it does say that in the story. Those 3, it happened. It was mop up duty. He got those 3 games in games where Ohio State, and they didn't specify, was either up by a lot or down by a lot, and it was just garbage time. So that's or at least I believe that was in one of Owen's quotes. So it was like
Okay.
Heinecke just telling the story himself. So, but yes, that is all up to this point. That's what we know.
Okay. No, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so that's the first 2 years. That's 21 and 2022. And by the way, and now that you mention it, and uh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe it was an injury that really wasn't as serious. It was an injury that typically would not have been a season-ending injury, but they just chose to stay out. Or what if, and this is total speculation, what if the knee injury happened, it was during the timeline of fall camp, but what if he got injured outside the football field? What if he was doing something else? I don't know. Just because one consistent thing I've noticed when I've seen all these guys that get a bunch of extra years, the injury that they get the medical hardship for, the medical redshirt year, it typically happens, you see it in a game, like, ACL, or like, I guess practice, something like that. So that's the consistent thing of like, it happens, you see it. And I think practice should count. Okay. So anyways, so the first 2 years we counted for, and then 23, 24, and 25, there you go. I mean, he played, like he was on the team. He saw action, special teams for the most part, the last 2 years. And then of course in 2025, had a great season. He was one of Oklahoma's best defensive players. Hats off to Owen Heinecke. He had a really nice year. That's 5 total years of college athletics. More importantly, though, that's 5 years of being enrolled in college. And this is the part. And did George's story talk about the clock, the eligibility clock?
Not really. That's why I got a little because now that I think
this is
now that I think about this a little bit more, even because when I first heard about this, and like I heard about just like the time that he spent at Ohio State, my lizard brain immediately went to, well, the NCAA gives football players 4 games. I know that they play more games in lacrosse in the regular season than 12. And if he only played in 3 games, in my head, I'm just like, that should just count as a redshirt year, which it kind of already was. Like, because his actual redshirt year was just the year that he got hurt. And so, but he's been in college for 5 years. So he's like, it has to be that medical. So whatever happened in lacrosse at Ohio State doesn't actually really matter, because in my original thought, I was like, yeah, that shouldn't count towards his eligibility. But that 3-game or the 4-game rule, that's all about a red shirt. Whereas, like, he already used his red shirt the year that he was hurt, which is why that they're going after that injury year, trying to get that exemption, because the medical hardship means that essentially that year does not count against your clock. And so that's probably what they're trying to prove. Like, my logic to me dictates that if it's as easy as, like, and I'm assuming when you're applying for these hardships and stuff like that, you have to provide pretty extensive like medical documentation. And, when you get operated on, like, the doctors take notes and like, this is what happened. This is what it looked like. This is what and it makes me wonder if those internal doctors' medicine notes maybe makes it clear that he could have played that year. Or at least,
Good.
or it's a question at least, which is why, because from my point of view, to me, like, the most interesting thing of the story is of course the NCAA inserting themselves again. The most interesting part is that, why is this taking so long? There is no way that that it's this hard. No way to figure this out. But that's beside the point.
So there's 2 theories as to why it's taking so long. I think the first theory is just kind of the easy, fun one, that the NCAA is inconsistent. It's a joke, and they don't prioritize stuff, and it's just an absolute clown car. That's theory number 1. Theory number 2 is because Owen Heinecke does not have an argument here, and it's just, you're done. And honestly, that's what I think it is. I don't think he's got a good argument, and I can explain more. I'll let you jump in, but go ahead.
Well, because the one thing I would say against that is that Trinidad Chambliss got his waiver denied like 2 days after Ole Miss's season ended. And so that tells me that either the NCAA is just incompetent and they're just prioritizing a big name. It's like everybody knows who Trinidad Chambliss is, and so it just got to the top of the pile. And they looked at this stuff and they're like, yeah, this is stupid. You're denied. But with Heinecke, it's like it's been over a month, presumably, that he's had this waiver thing. And I'm guessing that they probably started this process trying to get an extra year before OU lost to Alabama in the college football playoff. They probably started this before then. And so is there like is it not as open and shut? Is the NCAA looking at this and is just like, gosh, I don't know. And if that's the case, just make a decision. It's like, in my mind, I'm just like, gosh, you shouldn't have said that you were hurt. Like, you should have just, like, I remember before free transfers for everybody was a thing. This is only 3 or 4 years ago now, where the NCAA was still adjudicating, does this person get to transfer for a second time? And the magic words there were always either going to live near a dying family member or I'm depressed. And they would green stamp it and you would get it automatically if you said either of those things. So, like, I don't know, like, so that's inconsistent. But then I'm just like, if OU really wants Owen Heinecke to play, they should have said something that would have been a slam dunk that you can't really prove against or for.
Yeah. So my theory on why this has taken so long, or Oklahoma did not apply for this, or it took them so long to do it, is because all along there was no case. Because this was his 5th year and there was no case. And here's why. Like, it's really important. The red shirt, the second year, the injury is really important. And in the interview with Gabe and Teddy, he talked about Nate Dreiling, I believe, mentioning to him that, hey man, they're not going to give you this medical hardship. And that's something that should have been taken care of years ago. I mean, that should have been done in 2022 or 2023. I mean, if he should have gotten a medical redshirt for that year, like, apply for it, like, because you need to get those extra years. And so the fact that it never happened,
I think you would be right if Owen Heinecke was the Owen Heinecke of this year in 2022 and 2023 as well. You have to think at that point in time, he was a walk-on. He was a walk-on this year as well. A big part of this is that Owen Heinecke stands to actually make some money by coming back. That's that's why it wasn't looked at. Up until this season, he was just a walk-on who was just going to go into the regular workforce.
See, but here's the thing is, like, you listen to Owen Heinecke, he loves football. Like, that's the reason why he left lacrosse to go play football, and he made the team. So I think that it's reasonable to, even though he was younger and only in his 2nd year of college, if he would have been eligible for a medical redshirt year, I think he would have explored that, because he probably would have tried to, how can I play football for as long as possible? I think he would have explored that, because then that buys him an extra year. And then he knows, because he went to Ohio State in 2021, and he should know the rules of the NCAA. Once you enroll in full-time college, that's when your clock starts. Doesn't matter if you play or not. If he was a student at Ohio State and didn't play lacrosse, that's 1 year gone. It sucks. I hate that rule. That's the way it is. Also, doing some research, it appears that redshirting is not a thing in lacrosse. You can't redshirt in lacrosse, from what I can gather. It's been hard to kind of figure this out.
His year, what happened with lacrosse is immaterial to this, only in the sense that his year on campus just started his clock. It
is relevant, though, because if he can argue that the year playing, he can get a red shirt for that year, even though he didn't play football, that gives him a free year that doesn't go against his clock. So that's why that year does matter, but he's got to make the argument, because do the math. All right. So
No. I think that's not how the clock works. The clock is you have 5 years to play you have 5 years to play 4 seasons.
Yes, but there's 2 different types of red shirts you can get: a regular red shirt and a medical red shirt, which then can extend your clock. And that's what he's going for. He's essentially trying to say that 2021 and 2022 were 2 red shirt years. Therefore, he deserves an extra year, which would be his 4th year, which would overall be his 6th year. That's what he's trying to argue.
Yeah, but a red shirt and a medical hardship are not the same thing.
It's the same exact result.
Sure, but I think in terms of, like, how the NCAA is legislating these things, they're totally separate things.
Okay, but it's the same idea, though. That's his argument, because if you play 3 games in a season and tear your ACL in the middle of the year, boom, there's your medical red shirt. If you come back and play the next season, but you only play 2 games, there's your regular red shirt. You haven't played 1 year yet. You still have 4 years to go. That's what Owen Heinecke is trying to argue. My question is, I don't think he's got a good argument because one,
Or
he
that's what you're speculating. We don't.
No, that's 100. Well, no, that's 100% what it is. It can't be anything else. That's the only argument he would have, because if it's not for that, this was his 5th year of college. He's done. His clock already started. The only way you can get extra years is if you get redshirt years.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Word hardship and redshirt is whatever. These
same
are
thing.
kind of
Medical hardship, medical red. It's the same thing.
I do think isn't, but also within this Sooner Scoop story, they reference Troy Everett, who just was granted a 6th year of eligibility because of the injury he sustained in fall camp this year.
Okay.
And so, and he was granted it like pretty quickly, pretty immediately. So like he didn't even know if he was like it. The story made it seem like Troy Everett was, after the Alabama game, was under the impression that his football playing career was over, and then he got the exemption, and then he went to Ole Miss. So like Troy Everett they've applied and approved Troy Everett within this time frame already as well, way quicker than it is with Heinecke. And so to me it's gotta be. It makes me wonder if it's probably like up in the air. I bet there's people at the NCAA who are like, yeah, I mean, this seems like maybe in the past we've rewarded people with this hardship and this similar circumstance. And then maybe there's another person that's like, yeah, but this is also technically kind of against the books, and his documentation for this injury wasn't very good. And maybe we're thinking that we're probably going to deny him, but dang, it's actually sort of a tough call. We should have 30 different lawyers look at it to make sure that this isn't going to open us up for like a massive lawsuit. I wonder if it's like one of those things.
I mean, I guess, but the thing is, though, you mentioned Everett. Clearly, his fall camp injury led to him missing the entire season. That was easily called a medical hardship, medical redshirt. It's the same thing. For whatever reason, with Owen Heinecke, the NCAA didn't see it that way. So that tells me that there's something going on there.
We don't know that, though. We don't know that yet, though.
He would have already been credited with that, though.
Presumably, yes. But I do think we have to be open to the possibility that this is just bare incompetence, and that and that his paperwork is just sitting in an inbox somewhere and they haven't gotten to it. Like
okay,
that.
Hold on.
As stupid as that sounds, that's plausible.
Okay, and another theory, and that, so the other theory is that it was not granted a medical hardship, a medical red shirt in 2022 because it doesn't matter, because red shirt, medical hardship doesn't matter in 2021. You can't get a red shirt for that year because he played lacrosse, he burned a year, it doesn't matter anyways. That's also possibly what the issue here is as well, because either way, like that first year of him not playing, that essentially is kind of like a red shirt.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I understand what you mean. In order for this to make sense, to get his 6th year of eligibility, you would have to essentially count that first year of lacrosse as a redshirt year. It's like
yes.
he was already getting the medical hardship for 2022. Is probably, if the NCAA denies him, that's probably what their argument would be.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
To make it simple, here is exactly what in order for Owen Heinecke to win this argument, the NCAA would have to give him a red shirt in 2021, a regular red shirt, even though he played lacrosse. And from all the research I did, I don't think they give out red shirts in lacrosse. And so essentially what that is, even if he didn't play sports, you can't get, if he didn't play sports, if he just sat out that year, you can't get a red shirt for not playing sports. So effectively, he didn't play a sport in 2021. So what Owen Heinecke is hoping for is that the NCAA says, all right, you know what, even it's reasonable, and this is the argument that I made to you in our text thread yesterday. Owen Heinecke's argument should be, hey, listen, I went to college in 2021. I played lacrosse. I only played in 3 games. I realized my real passion was football. I transferred to Oklahoma. I made the team as a walk-on. I was on the team for 4 years. I played football for 4 years out of 5 years. Almost, technically 80%, if not more, of my college career, I was playing football. So it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. This is me, Owen Heinecke, arguing. NCAA, I think it's reasonable to count 2021, even though I didn't play football. I realized my passion was football. I played football most of my career. It's reasonable to assess myself, because I only played in 3 games, a redshirt year in 2021, like it's football. That's the argument you make. And then on top of that, you say in 2022, I got injured in fall camp. I had knee surgery that prevented me from playing the entire season. That should be a medical redshirt, medical hardship year. So therefore, starting in 2023, I had 4 more years to play. And I've already played 3 of them, and I get 1 extra year. That's Owen Heinecke. As far as I can tell from everything I've gathered, that's Owen Heinecke's argument. And the fact that it hasn't come back yet tells me it's probably not a very good argument. He's probably not going to win it. So I will say, listener Ryan on the YouTube page, you asked, hey, man, like you said, we referenced last week, it doesn't sound like good for Owen Heinecke, and you mentioned the NCAA. I wanted to talk about this on the show. So, Ryan, that's all of my explanation of why it's not looking good for Owen Heinecke. And here's my issue. And I mean, I'm friendly with George, but the fact that the NCAA clock is not mentioned in that story, nobody seemingly knows all of what goes into these rulings. And that's what bothers me, is like all these OU fans, if he gets denied, which I think he will, people are going to be like, what the heck is going on? And it's like, it's very clear why he's most likely going to get denied an extra year.
And I do think I want to just like, if and when he does get denied and there are people who are really upset, I do kind of like want to validate it in the sense that we're just coming out of a time period where you just saw Indiana win the national championship largely because they are a team made up of 4th, 5th, and 6th year seniors. And there are people getting like, we're still dealing with COVID seniors and COVID super seniors and everything. And it's just kind of all of it, none of it's fair. None of it feels fair. It all just kind of feels like a fluke. And so it's like, that's why. And so it's like the COVID and all of that stuff really created a difficult situation, and with all of the eligibility and everything, and we're still not out of that yet. And it has, over the last 4 or 5 years, it has given the appearance of all of the rules being made up and not strictly followed. And so on that, in that sense, I totally get it. But the thing that you bring up about how it's like, the NCAA clock, like all of that stuff, like how many people who cover the sport know about that? Like,
I don't know.
And the thing is, though, it is straightforward, but it's not straightforward because of all of the exemptions that they hand out like candy.
That may have just been a COVID thing, like because I think this is pretty simple, man. There's a regular red shirt and there's a medical red shirt, and medical red shirt should be pretty easy to prove, man. Like there's just, especially these days, like everything's on camera. Like if you got doctor stuff, so that's why to me, like all the questions about eligibility, it should not be. And the NCAA doesn't do themselves any favors by like waiting and stuff like that, because it's pretty black and white. I think. I mean, there's weird situations like the Chambliss one. To me, his whole injury season, where it was like some respiratory thing and he didn't play. To me, it sounded really sketch. It sounded really sketch, and there's that to me, that's probably why he got denied, because the NCAA saw like it's like, this evidence is not valid. Like this is a weird, sketchy thing. Like he could have played, he chose not to, and now he's good, and he's trying to get an extra year, and that's. Again, I'm just guessing, but that's kind of what it comes off to me as. But you're right. I agree. What last thing? Well, here before I let you go. Yes, if you're upset about it, that's fair, because the NCAA does make a lot of weird, bad rulings. You can be mad about the NCAA and their inconsistency. All I ask is that please understand and know the facts behind each individual case, particularly this one, because there's a pretty good chance that Owen Heinecke, based on what we know, is not going to get the extra year.
Yeah. And also we live in a world where just like out of nowhere, I mean, this has happened within the last year, years spent playing JUCO ball no longer count against your clock. And like, that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. And so that's
cool
why
for
there's
the players, but that's stupid.
Yeah, great for JUCO players. It's awesome for JUCO players. Yeah. And then, you have now where it's like the college football coaches like rule committee or whatever. And I think this is specific just to college football, but it was just leaked out that the coaches want to take the 4-game rule to preserve the red shirt and turn it to 9 games.
Yeah, that's stupid.
And just like, and then to that, there's a lot of people, and I'm an advocate of this solution of like, I'm a very big proponent of simple, easy to follow rules. And whereas I'm like, okay, we've gotten to this point now where it's like, okay, you can play in 4 games and it doesn't count against your eligibility, but the only regular season games, if you make the college football playoff and you haven't played at all, none of those games actually count against your thing, even though those games are way more important. And it doesn't make any sense. And now you want to go to 4 to 9. It's like, if you're doing 9, why don't you just? And so I'm a proponent of this because it's very easy, it's very simple, but just going to a 5 years to play 5 rule. You get 5 years to play in college. You can make money now. And so you got 5 years of earning power. It doesn't matter if you get hurt. You got 5 years. That's it. That's all you're going to get. No exceptions. And even, hey, if you're really good and you're good enough to play every single year, hell, you can play 5 seasons of college football, every single game, the entire year. Awesome. Like, how many people are actually going to do that? Probably not many, but super easy to understand. And you completely get rid of this appeals process. It's gone.
I suppose that definitely simplifies it, though. I do like the medical red shirt rule, though. I do like giving players a chance to not get docked a year if they have a serious injury. So I would propose the 5 years to play 4, and you can also get a medical red shirt if you need one. That's what I'd propose. I think it's weird to say you could play 5 years of college football. Like, just default, play 5 years full. I think it's kind of weird. But
I mean, you can basically already play it. Like, let's just say, I'm making up a hypothetical situation, but let's just take Indiana and Miami. Let's say they had a true freshman who in the regular season played in 4 games, and they're like, this guy's really good, but we got some depth in other spots, and so we are going to preserve this guy's redshirt. He's only going to play in 4 games, but as soon as the postseason rolls around, and that includes conference championship games, we're just going to play him like normal. And so let's say like Indiana does that with a guy. That guy just played in 8 games and just won a national championship. He's still got another 4 years to play. So you can already do that. Like, there's
but very small circumstances, though. Like, that's kind of like an exception. Like, how many times would that happen? Like, if somebody's playing that much in the playoff, they're probably going to be contributing quite a bit during the regular season, unless it's a scenario where they haven't played a whole lot and then they get thrust into the lineup in like November, and like, oh, now like these are like one of our best players or something. But then that would kind of take care of itself, though. I mean, you end up playing, 4 games, and then you can play in the playoff.
But I think you also have to think about like this. I don't know. I mean, we're at the players are being paid now. They're the whole 10-year ago argument that there's plenty enough money like in these athletic departments to pay the players. That was a lie. That's not true. So like it was a knowing lie 10 years ago, and so these are things that you have to consider. Like, this is a professional league now, and I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people who want to play more than 4 years and more than 5 years. And there are really good lawyers and really smart people who can probably make those arguments.
Let's turn the page. It'd be great if Owen Heinecke can get next year. That would definitely bolster Oklahoma's linebacker room. Based on his comments, the story that George wrote, and just all the different facts of the case that we know so far, to me, it does not sound like his argument is very good. Because here's the thing. If his argument was really good, in his pitch, this is the last thing, in his pitch on that story, he would have laid out exactly what I just laid out to you guys. He would have said, hey, listen, like, I got hurt in 2022. It was a torn ACL. Like, I definitely couldn't have played the entire year. That should be a medical redshirt year. 2021, yeah, I know I played lacrosse, but I'm arguing that this should be counted as a redshirt season because I ended up playing most of my career in football, and there's a 4-game rule for football. So why is there not some sort of similar rule when it comes to lacrosse? I think it's totally reasonable to extend that rule to a different sport.
Which it is reasonable. That is a reasonable argument. But also you have, rules are written down on paper for a reason. And
but like
you follow.
You follow. Yeah, well, exactly. And that's why it's an argument. Like, you have to make that case. And like his case on the podcast, and then it was basically just like, I'm not trying, like, I'm not trying to just make a bunch of money here. I just love football. It's like, okay, that's not an argument, man. Like that's not an argument. Like you have to, based off of the rules and your situation, you got to tell us why you deserve an extra year. And so that's why, like, his words is kind of making me think like, I don't know if his argument's very good. All right. So I've done a lot of research on Oklahoma and the SEC over the last 5 years, and I'm ready to present it on West of Everest. I'm making you guys wait an hour into the show. So what's the goal of this? The goal is to back up or potentially disprove all the times that we've said negative things about DeMarco Murray and how Oklahoma's running back room is just a mess, and it has been that way basically since 2023. The players, the young guys aren't developing. I mean, it's been an absolute disaster the last 2 years, whether it's injuries or just poor play. And my thought is, you know what if the rest of the SEC also has a bunch of issues, and it's actually just it's a position thing. Like maybe it's not as bad as we think. And so I was like, you know what? I got to back this up. Got the offseason here. I went and looked up at it. And so I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to share my screen because I got some slides here. I got a slideshow.
Did you get into PowerPoint and make PowerPoint slides?
No, I use Canva. Thank you.
Oh God.
Let's see.
It looks like you used Canva. Jeez.
All right. So can you see this full screen?
I can. Yes.
All right. So I don't have a script here, so I'm going to just explain the slides. So what you see here, this is from 2021 to 2025, obviously. And what I did was I took the top 2 leading rushers from each SEC team in each season, and I looked at what each player was ranked in the SEC in total yards rushing. Or I'm sorry, yards per game. You see it there on the screen. So for example, if a player, this is totally made up, but let's say if Eric Gray was ranked 4th in the SEC, and I know that Eric Gray played in the Big 12, but what I did is I did the math because some of this is Big 12, but I did it as if Oklahoma and Texas were being ranked in the SEC. So compared to the SEC team. So let's say Eric Gray was the 4th leading rusher in the SEC, and Javonte Barnes was the 33rd leading rusher, okay? And then I did that and those are the top 2 rushers. And I went through it all, every single team, and I averaged up what the average ranking was in yards per game. And this is what it came out to be. This is the first slide. So you see Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, like their top 2 rushers averaged, 12, 12.5, like very, very high, all the way down. Oklahoma, 11th in the SEC. Their top 2 leading rushers on average were ranked 21st or almost 22nd in the SEC over the last 5 seasons. Does that make any sense to you, Grant?
Yes, I understand what you're putting down.
And do you see those teams there? Are you surprised by anything? Like, Vanderbilt, South Carolina being at the very bottom. Like, is there any teams that are like, oh, I'm surprised that they've had rushers that are, and remember, this is the top 2 leading rushers, so it's only 10 running backs for each team.
I initially was surprised by Vanderbilt being 16th, but I have to remember that 24 and 25 are the only years they've actually been watchable. That, 23, 22, and 21, they were at the bottom of the barrel of the SEC and were dreadful. So that was the one that would have been the one thing that surprised me. Arkansas maybe being so low kind of surprises me because especially this year, their offense was good, but none of that. 11 through 16 here are not necessarily what we would associate, or like teams that we would associate with great rushing attacks over those 5 seasons.
Sure. And this is just one slide. I got more info. So we're starting there. You see Oklahoma's in the back half of the SEC over the last 5 years. Next slide. All right. So again, top 2 leading rushers each year, 2021 to 2025. This is yards per game. All right. And where they're ranked in the SEC. And you see how it's the SEC rank. And so it's based on where players would have ranked in the SEC. And this includes Texas. So 2021, 2022, and 2023 obviously were Big 12 seasons, but I did the math, and this is what these players would have ranked in the SEC. So I'm just backing it up. So 21 and 22, Kennedy Brooks, Eric Gray, top 4, top 5. And then, Eric Gray in 2021, 30th in the SEC, Javonte Barnes, 28th. Okay. Gavin Sawchuk, 12th in the SEC, would have ranked there in 2023. And then Tawee, that was the most consistent. 2023 with Gavin Sawchuk and Tawee Walker, not quite a top 10 rusher, Sawchuk, but Tawee just outside the top 20, not too terribly bad. Then, of course, you see the last 2 seasons, just dreadful. So this is backing up what you just saw, just individual players. And you've seen, obviously, since the last 2 years have not been great, and Oklahoma has not had a top 4 ranked rusher in the conference since 2022. Any comments on this, Grant?
One thing I wish you would have put on here, just because there is some cross-conference stuff we could do here. I wish you would have put a little bullet point or a little asterisk next to Eric Gray from 2021, because he actually rushed in the SEC in 2020. And I would have liked to see, and I know that Eric Gray finished higher than 30th in the SEC in rushing in 2020.
Oh, interesting.
So I just wanted to, I think that would have been interesting to put in there.
Well, I can probably go look that up, but since I'm sharing my screen, I don't want to draw attention away from that. I got more slides, though. Next one. All right, this is the SEC. So SEC running backs, obviously, from the last 5 years. Top 2 leading rushers each season. All right, these are the number of running backs ranked in top 20 rush yards. Hopefully that makes sense. So basically what I'm saying is how many players of the top 2 backs. So there's 10 total backs for each team. This is easy. Georgia. You see Georgia there, 10. What that means is that over the last 5 seasons, Georgia's top 2 leading rushers each season were in the top 20 total rush yards in the conference, which is terrific. They're incredibly consistent. Oklahoma, in 5 years, has only had 3 running backs finish in the top 20 of the SEC in rush yards. And that was Kennedy Brooks in 21, Eric Gray in 22, and Gavin Sawchuk in 23. And only, LSU's tied with them, and only Vanderbilt has fewer backs. And so another example of just not a lot of production out of that room. And you see Missouri, by the way, they're at 6, so pretty good, but not like as good as you'd think. They've had 3 leading rushers in the SEC that led the conference in rushing, which is really incredible for Missouri. Thoughts on this slide?
Well, first I'll go back. Eric Gray finished 7th in the SEC in rushing in 2020.
And he was 30th.
Sorry, 8th. He finished 7 yards behind Zamir White of Georgia. He was 8th.
Okay, and this is we're looking at his 2021. He finished 30th. So yeah, Oklahoma is near the bottom of the SEC in terms of running backs who have finished top 20 in the conference in total rush yards in a season over the last 5 years. Not great. And that
so
even obviously includes like time in the Big 12.
I want to, because you're including Oklahoma's bottom of the barrel in all of these numbers you're throwing out here, and it's over the course of 5 seasons, of course, that you're looking at. But this is also, you have to account for OU's rushing attack in 2021 and 2022 were terrific. They ran the ball really well both of those seasons. And so those are included. You're including all of that stuff. And OU is still sort of bringing up the rear in all of this stuff. And I don't necessarily think with DeMarco Murray, there was some, 2020, 2021, 2022 is not necessarily, I think, what everybody is pounding the table over. And we can go into those years if we really want. It's really the last few years that I think have just been completely unacceptable. And we started we started banging the gavel in 2023 was when we were just like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is like their running back rotations are costing them games. And that's where it got weird. It didn't get any better in 2024. I mean, you could easily say last year the entire offense was a garbage fire, and so whatever you just want to kind of throw that into the pile, that's fine. But then this year, they ran the ball. I think statistically, I think they were worse running the ball this past season than they were last year, and which was probably the worst, or I mean, at least the worst offense the program had seen since the late '90s. So,
What was I gonna say? So I started it in 2021 because 2021 was DeMarco Murray's first recruiting class. I should have said that at the start. That's why I started at 2021. But I still have some more.
And you also can't. It also wouldn't be fair because we're trying to drag him to. Can't give him credit for 2020 when he had by far his best running back he's had at OU, but he also didn't recruit him. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was Ramondre Stevenson, who was terrific. I mean, once he was the bell cow guy, OU's offense went from being pretty good to excellent that season. Does anybody remember what their running game looked like before Ramondre Stevenson's suspension was? It was dreadful. Is the worst it had ever looked in the Lincoln Riley era.
TJ Pledger and Seth McGowan,
yes,
which ended up having a good season at Kentucky this past year.
Yeah, McGowan's had a nice career after spending a couple of years behind bars, getting bigger.
Oh boy. I got some more slides to show. This next one is actually one of the you see this? Yeah, okay. This is actually one of the better numbers for OU and DeMarco Murray. So this is the average yards per carry. So yards per carry average ranking. So over the last 5 years, OU running backs, top 2 running backs, leading rushers, have averaged 5.26 yards per carry, which just barely in the bottom half of the SEC. But still, it's not as low as some previous slides. And Missouri being below OU is actually pretty surprising. That was the big. I was surprised to see Missouri down there.
Kennedy Brooks and like his 6.5 yards per carry career average, which I know doesn't count. And
Gavin Sawchuk are really.
I was gonna say
really doing a lot of work here.
Yeah, Eric Gray's like over 6 yards per carry in 2022, and second half of the season 2023, Gavin Sawchuk doing just so much heavy lifting in these numbers here.
A lot of heavy lifting, yeah. All right, next slide. Here we go. This is according to the 247 Sports composite rankings. Running back recruiting in the SEC over the last 5 years. Oklahoma, and by the way, this is again 247 Sports composite. I know that there's lots of different recruiting rankings and services. This is 247 Sports composite. That's why you only see 2 5-stars on here. Of all of it, they only had only 2 5-stars in this entire period for the SEC. 1 to Texas, 1 to Texas A&M. Oklahoma, man, as far as 4-stars go, and I mean, OU's recruiting on paper, Grant, over the last 5 years. Top tier of the SEC. LSU, by the way, is up there as well, and LSU's been a disaster too. So, I mean, on paper, they're getting guys, and yet the results have not been great. I thought this was important to show just the entire SEC and where Oklahoma stands as far as getting 4-star and to a lesser extent 3-star recruits.
Well, I think, and that's been for anyone who wants to defend DeMarco Murray. And I also want to make it clear, this isn't 2023 anymore. I think a majority of the fan base would have rejoiced if DeMarco Murray would have lost his job in the last month or so. I think most people have emotionally moved on from this and know that room is also, and like that's where, I'm happy that they got Jason Witten and everything like that. It seems like it could work out. But I think Joe John Finley and just for whatever reason, him being the whipping boy of the fan base of the 3 offensive coaches who needed to be fired, he needed to be fired the least out of all of them. Joe John Finley has run just excellent cover for DeMarco Murray the last handful of seasons. DeMarco Murray should send Joe John Finley an edible arrangements. Just thanks, man.
All right, next slide. Let's get to running back coaches just in the SEC. All right, so this is number of coaches per team during the last 5 seasons. Mississippi State's had 4 running back coaches. Vanderbilt 3, A&M 3, and this is all just to show that, I mean, we know OU's got 1. It's only been DeMarco Murray. So this is partly to show, like, there's been a little bit of turnover. On some teams have a lot of turnover. And most teams have had at least 2 coaches during this time period. So wanted to show that. Alabama, strangely enough, also with Oklahoma, their running backs coach survived a coaching change with Nick Saban and to Kalen DeBoer, and obviously DeMarco Murray survived the coaching change from Lincoln Riley to Brent Venables. And then Missouri, not surprisingly, man, Missouri's the running backs, they've had the top rusher in the conference 3 of the last 5 years. Of course, the running backs coach has not decided to leave or go anywhere else.
I think Kalen DeBoer fired his running back coach.
If that happened, it happened in the last year or last week or two, because
okay.
When I put this together,
I know they had some turnover on that staff.
So double check that. If I put this together, after Alabama had lost to Indiana, and so I didn't see that, so I may have missed it. So next slide, I'm almost done, I promise. This is kind of a hard slide to read. It doesn't give you full, but I think it's important to note, here are the coaches, running back coaches that were fired during the last 5 years. Shane Beamer fired 2 guys. Texas, they fired one, and Sark has just hired a new running backs coach for this upcoming year. Vanderbilt, LSU, Kentucky, and A&M have all fired a coach. Every other school has either not fired a running backs coach, like Alabama, well, unless you tell me different, or Oklahoma or Missouri.
He was Gillespie he started in 2021. He's been there ever since. So I think I was thinking of Texas.
Okay. Yeah, Texas just fired the running backs coach. And so these are the 6 teams who have actually, a coach has fired a running backs coach in the last 5 years. And everybody else either has not fired a coach, or there has been some head coaching turnover, a firing, and then, the entire staff gets let go, and then a new coach comes in. So, I mean, yeah, that's a new coach, but it's like, all right, well, it's a new head coach. So, of course, they're going to bring their own guys in, except for Kalen DeBoer and Brent Venables, apparently. All right, I think that was it. I guess that was my last one. All right, well, I had one more. Guess not. So, all that to say, I think it's safe to say Oklahoma can do better at the running back position.
I think that has to be the final takeaway, is that does Oklahoma fancy themselves like a blue blood of the elite of college football or not? And you should always be asking yourself, can we do better at this position? And I think they've moved on from one coach where they can definitely do better. And there's 2 other ones that they need to move on from, because we're talking about DeMarco Murray now, and it's one of them. And we said it, they should have moved on from DeMarco Murray 2 years ago. It was just the way that room was handled was such a joke. And so it's I think all of the evidence that is out there for DeMarco Murray is that at best he is a replacement level mediocre college football coach. And because he's just not, the one thing that he always hung his hat on was that, hey, he's a good recruiter, but the guys that he's recruiting aren't developing, and they're not amounting to much. And hey, and I know Taylor Tatum wasn't a 5-star in your composite, but he was a 5-star from one of the services. I don't know what it was, but, yep. And we just saw, you saw the tweet, you tweeted about it, whatever. Taylor Tatum, hey, he's going to Michigan. So it's like, hey, somebody sees something in his talent. It was a Michigan beat writer today tweeted out that Taylor Tatum is playing safety at Michigan.
He's going to start in the safety room. It could change, but he's going to start in the safety room. That was, I believe, the gist of the tweet.
And I'm like,
what?
That's objectively hilarious. It is just, so I don't know.
So I showed you the last graphic was the teams that have fired a coach, just Texas. So Texas just fired their guy. So Tashard Choice had been with Texas for 3 seasons, but following the 2024 season, Tashard Choice decided to go to the NFL. He went to the Detroit Lions. So all of a sudden Sark, because I know Tashard Choice is a guy that, we like him around here. Like, oh, man, it'd be great if he was OU's running backs coach. So Sark lost a really good running backs coach. And he hired a guy named Chad Scott for this past season. Well, Trey Wisner rushed for 4.6 yards per carry and just 3 touchdowns, finished 14th in the SEC in rushing. And CJ Baxter was under 4 yards per carry. And Sark just goes ahead, nope, all right, one and done, Chad Scott, you're fired. And who does Sark hire? And you guys aren't going to know who these guys are. I didn't know who these guys are. I did all this research on all these running back coaches. Sark hires a guy named Jabbar Jalouk. And Jabbar Jalouk has SEC experience. In fact, Jabbar Jalouk has been at Florida since 2023. Jabbar Jalouk recruited Jaden Baugh in the 2024 class, who was a 3-star recruit, and Jaden Baugh has been excellent the last 2 seasons for Florida. Jabbar Jalouk also, let's see, yeah, that's his big one. Jaden Baugh, who was a 3-star recruit, and Jalouk was not retained by Sumrall, the new head coach at Florida, and so he was on the market, and Sark went and got him. And so who knows if Jalouk, maybe it's a one-hit wonder with Baugh, but hold on, time out. Also a guy named Montrell Johnson, who was a transfer player, was Florida's best running back in 2022 and 2023, while Jabbar Jalouk was there as well. Number 11 finished in SEC and number 9 finished in SEC. So he's had the last 4 seasons, Florida running backs, at least one running back has been pretty darn good, if not 2. So more production in the SEC than OU's backs have had at Florida. And so that's who Texas has. And by the way, Texas just got 2 really good players out of the portal that are going to complement each other probably pretty nicely.
Yeah. DeMarco Murray has been a failure as a position coach at Oklahoma. I mean, he's going into this year, I think on paper right now, going into 2026, I don't think this is what the consensus was last year. I think, last year at this time it was the tight end room. But I think right now on paper, the running back room is obviously the weakest position group on the team. That should not be happening in, going into year 7 of your running backs coach. I think DeMarco Murray's room has lowered the standards so much at running back at Oklahoma that you got people like you have people trying to talk themselves into Torrey Blaylock, a Jag, being like a really good player. That's like how low the standard has gotten. Where it's like you see Torrey Blaylock just being able to run forward, and everyone is just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this guy as like an upperclassman. So it's a bad room right now. It doesn't look good. I think if history continues, I think right now we can pretty safely say, at least in my mind, Lloyd Avant, the guy they got from Colorado State, is going to be their leading rusher next year. He has spent the least amount of time with DeMarco Murray, and he doesn't have a history. I mean, the 2 top guys right now are, one's a Jag and injured, and the other is a nice, good player, but made of glass. And so, calling it now, Lloyd Avant is going to be their best running back next year.
Oh, man. We'll see. And this is a good time. I want to thank one of our listeners I watch on YouTube. So Ryan, I mentioned you earlier. I didn't mention to pick on you. I appreciate you leaving comments. So I saw that you had several comments on the YouTube channel on our last episode, which is great. Thanks for your feedback. We love it. I wanted to at least address some of it. So a couple of them, Ryan, he mentioned that he's real excited about Kenny Ozawalu. He thinks that he's a steal of this transfer class. So hopefully you're right. And also, here's something that, I just might have a blind spot to some particular pass catchers, if you will. But Parker, is that his name? Is it Parker Livingston? Why
Yep.
was I thinking his name wasn't Parker? There's not a whole lot of Livingstons.
Do you think it was Sean Livingston?
Sean Livingston, yeah. Ryan was defending Livingston, his speed. Says he runs a 4.5. I hope so. When I watching him last year, I didn't look like 4.5 speed to me, but maybe I have a blind spot, and I'd be perfectly happy if he's actually a pretty explosive player. Statistically, he was, based on his yards per catch. I mean, he was. I mean, he didn't have that many catches last year, but 29, I believe. That's not. That's
he
not
was Texas's.
7.
He was Texas's big play receiver.
So hey, you know what? Like, if that's his bit and it translates to OU, then cool. I mean, honestly, right now, I kind of see him with. I mean, it's lazy to kind of compare and contrast last year, but like to me, he seems kind of like he'd be like the guy you throw back shoulders to, or like you're on 3rd down, like you hit Keontez Lewis as a safety blank. That's kind of what to me because of his size. But if he's a big play dude, OU,
I think,
and he has him and Cignetti, great.
I think there's a world where Livingston is very much OU's best receiver next year. I think that can be a reality.
If that's the case, then they got a pretty good room. Then I think that room is
that's what you
solid.
hope. That's what you hope. The moment that when I first watched Tech, I mean, he had a long touchdown against Ohio State in the first game this year. But when I first saw Livingston this year, I was just like, that guy is going to scare the bejeebus out of me for years. And it's fortuitous that he's in Norman now. And so I like him a lot. I think Livingston is, in my mind, is far and away their best transfer that they got. And doesn't have to mean anything, but I was the guy on an island saying that Cignetti was obviously the best transfer that they got last year too. So just wanted to throw that out there. Outside of material.
Well, I mean, once we got to practice and everybody was talking, like, it was pretty clear Cignetti was like the most consistent one. And I don't know if you're that much of Nostradamus to think that, but I hope that never mind. If you're listening and you saw all the evidence that we presented for the OU running back room, and you think there's different evidence that tells a different picture, let us know. Let us know. Maybe I missed something.
All that, and just in terms of like value and everything, Emmett Jones should still be at the top of their list of coaches they should move on from, because the wide receiver position is just a lot more important than the running back position. And OU's just not. They've just been bad. They've been bad at that position the last 2 years. Cignetti notwithstanding, Deion Burks was a total bust as far as I'm concerned. He was a total bust of a guy at OU. Cignetti
in
was
the
terrific.
sense that he was supposed to be a number one guy. If that's the standard, then yes, he was a bust. But as a college wide receiver, I mean, he was fine.
I mean, he's what he was at Purdue, which is I think we talked ourselves into thinking that, well, that's Purdue and this is Oklahoma. And
well, in a different time with Lincoln Riley calling the plays, it could have been different, but not now.
We'll see what Trell Harris looks like. I'm still a little iffy on the Trell Harris pickup, but we'll see.
Maybe he's the guy because he's not really a big play threat. Maybe he's like that third down security blanket, like possession receiver, like can box a guy out because he's not that tall, but he's thick. Maybe he can play strong through the ball. Maybe that's his role. And Livingston and Cignetti obviously can be like, extend the field. And maybe the new guy from Tennessee. And, or maybe Arbuckle totally changes his offense up and goes the Sean McVay, Ben Johnson route and just puts a bunch of tight ends out there and they go under center and they just like run a new age NFL offense where they run the ball a lot and they set up good play action plays.
I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that.
Probably not. Mm-mm. All right. Well, other than that, Indiana's the national champion. We touched on it almost 2 hours ago now, it seems like. But I don't know if I have a whole lot to say about it. You officially you won our picks. Because we split. By the time I got to 8.5, I was like, man, that's too high, man. You gotta take Miami. And sure enough, Miami did cover, but Indiana,
I thought
national champs.
I thought on a play-by-play basis, I thought Miami was a little bit better than Indiana on Monday night. But Indiana's a better team overall, I thought. But on Monday night, I thought Miami probably played a little bit better than Indiana did for the most part. But so one of the big annoyances of me, it kind of seems like the on all of the national shows the last 2 days, and even I saw it even on like the Sooner Scoop podcast. I haven't listened to it yesterday, but it was part of the title of their episode. But people being like, who's the next Indiana, and what can other programs learn from what Indiana has done to like take that next step or whatever. And I find that so mind-numbingly boring. Why would anybody? Because the thing is, like, Indiana's a great story. But the reason why it's a great story is because it can't be replicated. Because here's what happened with Indiana. This is why, like, it just so happened that the two best coaches in the country, Nick Saban and Harbaugh both left college football after the same season. And so there was a big vacuum that was available there at the exact same time that college football is going through these massive landscape changing, changes with NIL and free transfers and open free agency and every offseason. All of that, and somehow the best coach in college football was coaching James Madison. And not only that, but the best coach in college football, who was at James Madison, also recruited a bunch of guys who just ended up being terrific, great college football players, probably NFL guys. And it reminds me of, I'm trying to think of, is there any way that you can, is there a precedent for this of, because, a big part of Indiana's core was just James Madison guys that Cignetti originally recruited James Madison, brought him back. That was Surratt. That was D'Angelo Pons. That was their entire D-line. That was and so I started to think, I was like, those Boise State teams, when Kellen Moore was there, those teams had a lot of NFL guys too. Those teams were really good. And so I'm like, I think Curt Cignetti recruited a Chris Peterson Boise State core of guys to James Madison. And it just so happens that Cignetti was the best coach in college football. Indiana hired him, and he took all of those guys with him, and they all stayed throughout their entire eligibility. And then they went and got the best quarterback in college football, and it just so happened that one of those guys he brought over from James Madison is an NFL wide receiver, and two of the guys who stayed left over from Indiana from Tom Allen's tenure there were also NFL wide receivers. And I think all of that together makes especially in this era where there's not as much depth, players aren't staying in the programs the same amount of time, and so you're going up against the Ole Misses and the Miamis of the world who are playing team full of mercenaries, essentially, and you got a bunch of guys who have played together for 3 or 4 years already. And he just happened to there's always G5 guys who are good NFL players. Cignetti just happened to recruit all of those guys to James Madison at the same time. So that's a long way of saying that it can't be replicated. It's not going to happen again in our lifetimes. It's not going to happen with Indiana. Let me tell you, there's a very, very large gap between Fernando Mendoza and Josh Hoover. It's done for them too. They're still going to compete for the playoffs and stuff like that because Sig is the best coach in college football. But Indiana's going to have to start to recruit at a top 10 level if they want to win another national championship, period.
We'll see. I think Sig knows what he's doing. So
yeah, we'll see. But I think, and Indiana was great. They were the best team in college football this year. I don't want to take anything away from them, but they're not. But Miami was more talented than they were, and I think you finally started to see that. And that's the way that game went on Monday night is kind of how I talked myself into OU having a chance against Indiana. Because because Indiana couldn't block Miami. I don't think Indiana would have been able to block OU also. But OU wouldn't have been able to score at all on Indiana probably. But my other thoughts from that is because I got to get a dig on Miami here. I have to. It is an absolute disgrace and embarrassment that you played the national championship game in your home stadium and were radically out-attended by the opposing team. That is a joke. An absolute freaking joke. I don't care that Indiana has, which is this is the anecdote that Indiana has the biggest alumni base in the country. I don't care. You were playing in your home stadium, and there were more Indiana fans there than Miami fans, which it shouldn't be a surprise. Miami doesn't care about Miami football. They don't care. So it's I hate that program. It's a joke.
I know you hate Miami. My only question, I don't know the answer to this question, is I saw that the ticket prices were just insane. So my only question is it a cost thing?
There's a lot of money in Miami.
There is, but the fact that Indiana has got more people potentially that would be willing to go and spend the money than maybe Miami does. I don't know. Maybe that's. I mean, yes, it does not look good. I agree.
I want to.
If Oklahoma hosted a playoff game, all I'm saying is I don't know. I mean, if the ticket prices were really expensive,
if Oklahoma hosts what? Well, I guess this wouldn't count. I mean, because like Miami is a
national championship game, not
Miami wasn't. This isn't like Miami wasn't selling out their home games this year anyway, or last year when they had the Heisman Trophy, or Cam Ward won the Heisman.
Yeah,
did he? Okay, no, he didn't. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Cam Ward won the Heisman last year.
Okay,
or 2024 season.
Yeah,
because I can't imagine Miami got because like it's not like it was a Miami home game. Like they didn't have like all of their tickets, right? I'm sure it was whatever the split is for. And like if Oklahoma hosted a national title game and they didn't have like all of their season ticket holders that could go, I'm just saying there's a chance that maybe it's not as black and white. Because
I mean,
man, like you're gonna spend like $3,000 a ticket to whatever it was. That's
I don't know.
crazy.
Ask OU fans what the fan distribution was like when they played Florida State in Miami 25 years ago, or when they played Florida in Miami in 2008. Like those were very large Florida State and Florida advantages in fans.
Yeah. I wonder, I'd be interested in ticket prices, compared then to now, like inflation.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like I assumed, because like the reason why the ticket prices were so high is probably because a lot of Miami people are just like, yeah, I don't care about Miami football. I'm putting it on the market.
Yeah, maybe.
And so it's just and so I do think in that sense, it is a for all like the OU fans out there who are the same generation of us and came of age and originally became OU fans because you watched the 2000 national championship team. And the last 25 years, you would do anything. You would give just anything reasonable to be up on that podium again. And Miami gets to play a freaking home game. And they are outnumbered by a team from the North. A team like up until like November of this year, the losingest program in the history of college football. You're outnumbered by those like radically. It's a joke. Absolute joke.
I'm looking at a Orange Bowl ticket from the OU Florida State game all the way back in obviously January of 2001. An upper level ticket, sticker price, $100, baby. Section 408, row 10, seat 14, $100. Now, on the secondary market, I'm not sure if that would have gone for back in 2001, but anyways. Yeah, good for Indiana. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts. Like I watched the game. It was a good game, I guess. I try to watch these, like a lot of these playoff games, I watch on delay, man. Like I'll do something else and then I'll come back and because I can't sit through all these commercials. It's just so many commercials. Like I'll get to where I can just fast forward through everything.
There was a couple of touchdown commercial, kickoff commercial scenarios in that game on Monday night, and that is just the worst. So, yeah, I thought it was I thought the fourth quarter was good. I thought the game all the way up until that point was pretty mediocre. But it was still a good game. The Mendoza's touchdown run on the draw, that's an awesome play. That is just like that was I think that was like one of the moments where it's just like, yeah, no matter what, like Indiana is not losing this game. It's just not going to happen. Like even when like Miami gets the ball back, only down 6, like with over a minute to go, like all the time in the world to get down, and but there was still really no part of me that thought that they were actually going to do it, that Indiana would actually, get that close and then blow it. So, trying to think there was other thing that I felt pretty strongly about. Everybody seemed pretty upset about the non-call on when the Miami defender got Mendoza up high. I don't think that's as black and white as people think it is. Mendoza tries to go.
Sure didn't like that.
Yeah, Mendoza went and tried to throw a block, and the guy didn't like target Mendoza. I mean, it was just like Yeah, he got hit hard, but Mendoza tried to throw a block.
I mean, my thing is I didn't see it live. Like I didn't catch it live. Therefore, I know I'm not a ref, but it's like I have a little bit more leniency if the refs missed it too, because like he handed the ball off, and then you see the replay of it, and yeah, the defender, like hit helmet to his face mask, and that's what got him all bloody. So yes, I mean that probably should have been a penalty, but it didn't bother me that much that they missed it because I couldn't really tell during the live play, and maybe that's not the right standard, and the refs are supposed to see that, but like usually it's pretty easy to tell, and I didn't.
That's
even
what I've been
notice it.
saying.
And
That's
it's
what
like,
I've been saying for years.
Okay.
That we should look at stuff, and like when it only looks like a penalty, when you slow it down that far, then yeah.
Well, but it was it probably was a penalty, and they just missed it. They should have thrown.
But
a flag.
also,
if they would have flagged it.
But it had
right
none
call.
of the indicators of targeting. He didn't.
It's not targeting. No, I don't think it was targeting. It would have been a roughing, like just a unsportsmanlike, or what's the right call? Unsportsmanlike conduct, or whatever.
Probably,
just like
probably be unnecessary roughness.
Unnecessary
but
roughness.
Like also,
there you go. Thank you.
But also, Mendoza trying to engage with the guy has to be part of the equation. When you do that, you're not defenseless anymore. And so there's.
I didn't see it. I didn't see him as trying to engage. I mean, he handed it off and was kind of just there.
No, I thought it was because it was a zone read, and then Mendoza faked like he kept it, and then he went and he tried to put up his hands to throw a block, and the guy blew him up. So
yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, Sig hated it, but
yeah,
I didn't.
And that's fine. Like your Heisman Trophy quarterback, who if he gets hurt, they're not going to win the game. So of course, that's fine him being upset with it, but also tell your quarterback not to go searching for contact. But so I that was the one where it kind of seemed like it's like people wanted to wanted to arrest that Miami player thinking it was dirty. I was like, that was not that dirty. I don't. So anyway,
yeah. How about this is just doesn't matter, but man, that last pick by Carson Beck was terrible. It was a terrible pick.
Real bad.
God,
real bad.
So easy for the DB. But it's just goes Indiana. They're just doing their job, man. I'm pretty sure they were playing cover 2 on the backside there, and on the front side of the play, they were playing something else. And there was no flat player to occupy the corner, so the corner just sank. He's like, I'm just gonna sink.
Yeah, I thought Herbstreit did a really good job of describing it. He's like, this happens, and the corner knows that he has help over top, so he starts to just play trail technique on him, and it's just like, yeah, so it's just a really terrible decision by Carson Beck, and which is too bad because I thought Carson Beck was genuinely really good in the playoffs. I was like, I thought he ended up being a really, really good pickup for Miami this year. And it's hard. It's easy to forget that at this time last year we didn't know about Carson Beck because he had just had a pretty radical elbow injury, and on his throwing arm. And so I was like, gosh, that kind of seems like that'd be an injury that would keep a pitcher out for multiple seasons. And I was like, coming back in 1 year from that, it didn't seem to be. He looked to be pretty much healthy the entire year to me. So I kind of think. I think Carson Beck is a little underrated in NFL circles now. He'd be my number 2 quarterback on the board behind Mendoza, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. He's fine. He's a good player. I mean, his experience helps him. His arm strength's not great. Probably his injury doesn't help him on that, I would sure. And he's decently mobile-ish. But in the right position, he could be
he's not a statue.
Player.
Yeah, I think he could be. Yeah. I mean, some sad sack team is going to draft Ty Simpson in the first round, which is just, yikes.
Yeah, I think he's really smart. I just don't think his physical limitations will hold him back.
Very talented. Yeah.
He's a 5-star though, man.
So is Taylor Tatum.
Yeah. Free safety, Taylor Tatum, that to you. Anything else?
I don't think so. It's going to be a long off season. I resisted putting anything about the OU basketball program on the rundown because
it's irrelevant. Don't even need to talk about it.
it's irrelevant. It sure is.
This is one of those times where, again, I will say that I'm very happy that I'm no longer in the media officially, because if I was required by my job to have to follow that team and cover their games, it would just make me so depressed. This is just like I tried watching some of their early games. Like I put it on and it's just like, this is bad basketball, man. These guys suck. Like they were kind of okay at the start, and then it was the I don't know. It was one of the games. Oh, was it A&M? They blew like a 10-point halftime lead or something, or a 9-point halftime lead. Was that A&M? I don't know.
It was Alabama.
One of the games
Alabama.
they blew. Okay, they blew like a 9-point. And even before that, A&M they could have. It was just like, okay. And I guess they played last night, and I didn't even know they played.
Oh yeah, they played last night, and they got down. I think South Carolina started the game on like an 11 or 14-0 run or something like that.
Oh, cool.
And that was it. That's all she wrote. So,
well, I don't know what the NIL is for men's basketball, but hopefully all these guys are.
Well, reportedly it was
enjoying it.
Yeah, reportedly this was the first year where they actually like kind of broke the bank and actually like invested in the team and actually spent some money.
Isn't Trae Young involved? Like helping out, donating money or whatever, or like assistant
that's why
GM or.
And so it's
GM
just
and name only.
It's too bad because Moser's teams are have been all exactly the same. They've had to start over in the transfer portal every year, and like that's just college basketball now. But he came over from Loyola, and he was supposed to be like a defensive whiz guy. Their defense has sucked every year he's been here. They can't rebound. They're like one of the worst rebounding teams in whether it's the Big 12 or the SEC every single year. And they blow leads like no one's business. And man, if the game is close in the final like 2 minutes of the game, unless it's just a 2-week stretch last season, they will blow it 100% of the time.
Well, that's too bad. Definitely thought Moser was going to be a great coach, but I think he needs like 10 years at a spot before he starts to get really good. Because that was at Loyola.
So yeah, because he's an average to below average coach at Loyola. He was like an under 500 guy at Loyola until they went on like the Final Four and Sweet 16 runs in those back-to-back years. And yeah, I thought when they hired him, I was like, wow, yeah, that seems like a really great hire. But it felt fishy to me that it was OU who got him. And I was just like, that's maybe a red flag.
Well, it seems like your intuition was correct. It would seem. So yeah,
and also the Thunder,
just apathy.
The Thunder have killed OU basketball as well. It is what it is.
I don't know. I mean, if OU basketball was good, people would care.
If they started winning, people would care. And that's the nice thing about college basketball, though. If you get the right coach, you are better immediately. Like it doesn't take a year. It's like now you're like I'm seeing it now. Like my alma mater, Minnesota, they for about a decade just had a terrible program. Went from like Richard Pitino, didn't really have any success there, but was having a lot more success now at New Mexico. They went to Ben Johnson, who was a former player there, supposed to be like a recruiting hotshot, and he was just dreadful. I mean, he just never, and everybody kind of always made excuses like, oh, like the talent in the high school talent in the state's not as good as it was 5 years ago, or oh, there's not a whole lot of financial support for the program. They go out and they hired Nico Medved, who had previously been at Colorado State, and they've made the tournament, like, the last 3 years. And what do you know? It's like, what do you know? Minnesota is better immediately this year. They're not like, it's not like winning like a ton. They're not like, probably not going to make the tournament or anything. But there you go. They're beating ranked teams. They're going to overtime against other ranked teams on the road. Like it's not hard. Find the right coach. Your basketball team gets better immediately. And so we'll see if they do, because it's really cold here in Minnesota. It's like I like watching college basketball when you have a fun team to root for.
Yeah. Cool. I'm kind of, to me, I'm classic. It's a 1 month, 3 week season for me now, man. I'll tune into the tournament, but for the most part, I can't be bothered to really care much about college basketball. So that's just the way it is, man. Hey, what you're getting from Lee here on West of Everest, I love football, man. I love college football, and I love the NFL. I'm in. All the other sports, Hey, can you see why I got out of sports news? Can you see why I made the move? Wasn't for me. I didn't want to pretend anymore. Didn't want to act anymore. Because you guys deserve better than that. All you basketball fans out there. All right. Well, who knows when we'll be back? It's a long off season. Maybe we'll have. We mentioned Jared a long time ago in this episode. Maybe we'll have him on to give us some updates. Maybe we'll look back at some of his predictions from 2 years ago and see how those turned out. And if he has any thoughts on, I'm trying to think of some content for the offseason. I thought he was a good guest. Now we got video, so that could make it interesting. So maybe that's something we can do here in the coming weeks. I don't know. But other than that, we'll be back, I suppose, whenever it warrants us to return to the airwaves. So until whenever that is, for Grant, I am Lee. This is West of Everest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you want to help us spread the word, please leave us a 5-star review. And also, tell all of your friends who are OU fans about West of Everest. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.